Hello everyone! I am so excited to be coming at you today with a video about the full moon in Taurus, which is going to be happening tomorrow on November 12th at around 8 in the morning Eastern Standard Time. And this is one of my favorite full moons of the year. The moon is really comfy in Taurus. So yeah, there's lots of amazing stuff to talk about, and I'm going to get into some of the technical astrology of what's going on around this full moon and what that means for our kind of shared energetic context that we're working through right now. And I just want to say before starting the video that if anyone is interested in learning about how this impacts or may affect their chart personally, you can definitely reach out for a birth chart reading or tarot reading. There's lots of, I think, really potent opportunities right now. So it's a good time to do some investigation. So we're going to dig right in. This full moon is going to be happening at 19 degrees of Taurus, opposed to the sun at 19 degrees of Scorpio. And for people who watch my videos frequently, you'll know that I do them on the new moon and the full moon because I think I'm a Cancer, so my son's in Cancer, so I do a lot of following of the moon. But I think in general these moon cycles are really kind of, they're close and they're personal, and we can watch the moon changes signs every 2.5 days. We can watch these transitions happening, and then we have, you know, these way larger cycles that happen, longer cycles that happen with the planets moving through the zodiac. So I think following the moon, or just like working with the new moon and the full moon, is this really awesome, these awesome like anchor points to kind of check in and see what we have to work with. And the moon is very intimate to us, and so I think working with the moon can be very potent and can lead to, yeah, lots of healing and manifestation. So we have this full moon, as I said, happening on the Scorpio-Taurus axis, and when signs are opposed to one another, they often are sort of like the medicine for the opposing sign. And so when people talk about oppositions, sometimes when astrologers talk about oppositions, they can sometimes talk about like there's a tension there. But it really is also kind of like, it can be two opposite ends of the spectrum, and so there can be this sort of feeling of tension. But there can also be this feeling of wholeness, this completeness. And I love the Taurus, I love all the axes, but the Taurus-Scorpio axis is one of my favorites to dig into. I think it has a lot to do with survival. And I've been thinking a lot lately about how the multitude of paradoxes that we are living in at any given moment. We're living within a multitude of different paradoxes. We are both, beings of the earth, Taurus, and we are also infinite beings. So how can we be infinite beings in finite bodies? That, you know, time is real and time is not real, that we are solid and we are also holograms, that, you know, all of these kinds of things that sort of appear to be opposites. And as we're moving through Scorpio season, and particularly with this Mercury retrograde in Scorpio, it's this very investigative time of trying to sort of like dig around, make sense of, understand, sort through, feel out, get down to the bottom of it, get down to the truth. And Scorpio energy can be intense. It can be really like intensely focused. It can become kind of obsessive, or sort of like, and there's been this feeling of clenching that I've been noticing myself, and through conversations with friends, noticing this theme of kind of like being really kind of tight, because there's this anticipation, I think. We've got a really big astrological occurrence happening, not for a good while, but as Saturn, Pluto, and Neptune all lead up to their conjunction in Capricorn. There's this pressure building over this next year around what are we doing? What is our purpose? What are we doing here? And so I think with the sun moving through Scorpio for this month, and with this Mercury retrograde happening in Scorpio, which is really giving us this investigative opportunity. And I think of Scorpio sometimes as like with a magnifying glass, like let's get in there, let's get down below the surface. And Mercury is processing information, understanding, thinking. And Mercury works often in a very linear kinds of ways. And so I think my major takeaway from this time right now is like that really busy, zippy energy, intention that can come with Mercury is really being asked to slow down and quiet down. And so we've got this Scorpio, right, which is what's below the surface. And then we have Taurus, which is the present moment. And I often think of Taurus is, when I think of Taurus, fixed earth, I think of rocks, right? And rocks appear to be, or bones, like the most permanent thing that we can have, the most solid thing. But even those solid things, even bones, eventually, things decompose. I actually don't know that. I'm sure that is true. They get fossilized off, but just like even rocks, with water moving through rocks change form. The things that appear to be the most solid and sturdy change over time, and that is the power of Scorpio, is the changing. And I think through this really complex, what feels like it could be a really complex time right now of sort of sorting through our wounds and really looking down and deep into this Scorpio energy, I think this Taurus full moon is providing us with this opportunity of like, it can be more, it's simple. Sometimes the most like profound sense of understanding can be in this stillness and this simplicity of just that we are, and the infinite mystery. I think that's really been a major theme too that I've been working through lately, is like we are living amidst all these paradoxes, and we can try to be kind of understanding and sorting and making sense of what that means. And at the same time, we can just exist amidst this endless and infinite mystery, and knowing that Taurus and Scorpio both have this tendency to want to hold on to want their fixed signs, to Scorpio's like, I'm just going to get down to the bottom of this, and Taurus is like holding on to dear life for the things that make it feel safe. And as we have Uranus moving through Taurus for the next 6 years, a lot of those those concrete things are kind of crumbling. And so I think full moons are this just like really beautiful opportunity for these two different energies to kind of like meet in the middle, for the Scorpio and Taurus energy to kind of meet in the middle. And we do have Mercury very actively involved in this full moon, as it's conjunct the Sun. It's actually conjunct the Sun today on November 11th, and this won't happen for another like 4 years, that Mercury will come retrograde back over the Sun, and you can actually see it if you have like protective eye gear. You can see the little dot of Mercury moving back over the Sun today. And so there is this opportunity for profound understanding, but I don't think it's going to happen through the typical psychoanalytical tendencies of Scorpio, which can be just like really intense. And it's through this simplicity of being embodied, being in the moment, being in awe of the mystery. And Scorpio to me really truly is the mystery, is what can't be communicated in linear, logical, with Mercury retrograde in Scorpio is like, woo! It's like the most Alice in Wonderland-y kind of like trippy kind of energy we could be working with. And so perhaps on this quest for understanding, we're trying to apply all of our our typical approaches, and it's not. We're clenched up, we're tight, we're trying to make something come out of, distill something out of all of this through force, where I think this is really this time of like sitting with the stillness, and I picture it sort of like this big, and in my body sort of like this bowl kind of like down in my belly. It's just like open and holding space for just the endless mystery of life and life experience, and how beautiful and magnificent it is that we are alive amidst all of these paradoxes, and the peace that can be found kind of like in the center, at the center of all of that. I think there's also been a lot coming up. Scorpio, and this Scorpio month that we're in, and this Mercury retrograde in Scorpio, I think brings up a lot of our, it's a really potent time to be doing shadow work, to be looking at the parts of ourselves that we really hate and that we really, or wounds that we have, trauma that we're sort of sorting through, trying to understand and heal through. And then Taurus across from Scorpio is just basic self-worth, like that I'm worthy of love, even if I can't love myself in this. I'm worthy of the love of whatever it might be for you, if it's of your ancestors, of your family, of angels, or whatever. Like, you are surrounded by unconditional love, you are loved, love is what brought you here, and just kind of like remembering that. And I think with the wounds too, like, and from another person whose astrology video I watched, her name's Sarah Verba, I was inspired along this idea of judgment. Scorpio can be pretty harshly judgmental. It has these really powerful psychoanalytic tendencies to really understand and see what's going on below the surface. But often, when we're pricked by something that someone else is doing, it's sort of signifying in us that there is something that makes us really uncomfortable about that. What do we have to look at with ourselves? And so I think this is a time of seeing our wounds, seeing our shadows, seeing our demons, and actively choosing to love ourselves despite wherever we are at in our healing process, despite our past, despite mistakes that we've made, harm that we've caused. Everyone is deserving of love. That is, to me, what the Taurus full moon is, this bounty of just love. Everyone is deserving of love, because if they were not receiving love, often that's where the harm or manipulation or power grab, or Scorpio can be this trying to like fill this black hole, fill this void. And yeah, I think that the moon in Taurus is just this gift of unconditional love. And from there, the wounds, the demons, the shadows can transform and can evolve when they're loved, when they're not shunned or shamed, like, and so this sort of, this actively choosing is feeling really potent to me. Actively choosing to love ourselves while we're kind of doing this healing work, while we're doing this shadow work over this next month and the rest of our lives. Because we're all fucked up. Like, that's, I think, what Scorpio is like. We can look around at other people and other things and be having these judgments. And really, what we need, what does it mean to be sort of just showing up? And I feel this is very Taurus, showing up present with a open heart, loving and approving of whatever's going on. And that doesn't mean like justifying or validating or supporting harmful behavior or harmful action, but things are going to change. Love is kind of the first step, because ultimately if we're not working from a place where we feel loved, then we're working from a place where we feel fear and feel unworthiness, and then we have this gaping hole in us that we try and fill with other things, or cast blame, or put it outside of ourselves. And so I just really truly feel like this is this opportunity to just be both sitting really potently and patiently in the present with this sort of awe of the mystery, and also this sort of like, with that, this like gentle opening of the heart of like, I am allowed to be loved even as I'm wounded. I'm allowed to be loved even as I have parts of me that I don't really, that come out in weird ways or make me feel like I'm not a good person, make me question my self-worth. Like, I'm allowed, there's a grander mystery to it all. There's a grander love. And so to sort of like not identify so intensely with our shadows, but rather to observe them and love them, thank them for being here, because they give us the opportunity to choose every day to actively love ourselves. If we were perfect and we were not wounded, we had no shadows, there wouldn't be this opportunity to commit. Taurus is committing. It is like the work day after day of showing up for ourselves, and therefore for those around us. And yeah, I just think this is a really awesome full moon to try and hold space for the mystery and to rest. I think with the Scorpio retrograde, there's like, oh, it's exhausting. This is exhausting stuff, and we don't live in a world that like you can take 3 days off of work because you're looking at some traumas from childhood and it's gonna fuck you up, and you can't, like, this is not the kind of world we live in. But whatever kind of spaces we can carve out for ourselves to like sit with our most wounded, aching parts of who we are, and choose to love ourselves as a whole of what we are, imperfect. That's where healing can come. And I think also, like, as we'll move into Sagittarius season, like, and with all of the planets that have been, that there's this like slow building of momentum right now, and I think there can be this frantic kind of energy of like needing to compensate for something. We don't know what it is, but it's this feeling that we need to compensate for something, or we feeling guilty, feeling not enough, and being busy. And I think the answers that we need are going to come to us not in the language that we're maybe used to. We have to be still enough and quiet enough at this time to hear the way that the universe is going to, the way that Source, but however you conceive of this, is going to be communicating with you what you need to do. What is your next step? What is the answer to this challenge you've been mulling over? Where are the opportunities that you've been looking for? And it's going to come in ways that, yeah, Mercury retrograde in Scorpio is like, we've got to have our like antennas up in a different kind of way than we typically do, not in this hyper rational, hyper sort of like mental air energy. It's like more so felt on an energetic, emotional level, and so allowing that to come in by quieting the kind of hyperactive ways that our mind can be. Yeah, and I think also along the same lines, like amidst all of these paradoxes, is like we are animals. Like we're literally animals. And we have all of these built-in sort of like survival mechanisms, and this can be a lot of that shadow stuff and a lot of that, shadow stuff, demons, these kinds of things that kind of come up for us, like when we have responses to things that are not actually like aligned with the reality of what is going on in that moment. So like if we like there's some money challenge or something like this, it can evoke in us this response as if we're being chased by a bear, and we're like this intense survival response, especially around all sorts of different kinds of things. But I think this is a moment too of like being so grateful. Like Scorpio ruled by Mars, this instinctual kind of like sexual, intense kind of need, the need to procreate. Like some people are not choosing to procreate, and like what does that mean? How does that energy then, that survival, instinctual sort of so deep in that like root chakra space, like how can we say like I love this part of me, I love that I'm an animal, I love that I have, for most of the time that our species has been alive on this earth, these instincts have been like really important and helpful, and now we're in this strange place where they are helpful at times and they're not at other times. And so sort of like loving those responses that come up, but also kind of being able to see from a different perspective, from this like point, more not being sort of like controlled by those survival responses that come up, but more observing them. It's just an amazing time to observe and like feel the breadth of this unconditional love that's available to us. Like being hugged by this Taurus full moon feels like so nourishing. Taurus energy is nourishing. Like Scorpio could be sort of this like mad scientist energy at times, and I feel like Scorpio and the Taurus energy is like, here's a meal, like you need to eat, like you need to nourish your body, nourish your soul. But yeah, I think Scorpio, for all of its capacity to have that clenchy energy, it's like it's psychoanalyzing ourselves, psychoanalyzing other people, trying to like just being still, like in the cave. That's like how I've been thinking about this time. Is like I think of Scorpio as like the cave, and like receiving the answers that we need, this sense of understanding through just being there in that space and being brave enough to be there in the shadows. So along with this is a longer video than normal. We have this really cool sextile going on with Mars at 25 degrees of Libra and Jupiter at 25 degrees of Sagittarius, like opening up this is a moment of opportunity. There's positive momentum building right now, and we keep holding ourselves back, and we keep making up stories about why we're undeserving of what is coming to us. And like, I think this is just a really awesome time to feel that joy and that expansiveness that can come when we can sit, when we hear and can feel and know the answer, this spark, this idea, this inspiration, this understanding that we're worthy and we're here to share our gifts and to move into the action of that in a light way, like Libra, Mars and Libra, Jupiter and Sagittarius, like light work, joyful, playful, expansive, beautiful. So I think, yeah, this can be a really awesome moment. I'm going to start shuffling some cards. My tarot deck are on better terms. Yeah, this really beautiful moment to sort of clear the cobwebs, like clear the gunk out of the way, just Be still. Alright, let's see what we got for today. I'm going to pull 3 cards. Okay. So, these are both. So, the 8 of Cups is about, I mean, in this particular imagery, this character is like walking up a set of stairs. I kind of more so picture it like down the set of stairs, down into the cave. 8 of Cups is often associated with rejection or like breaking up of partnerships, of friendships, of letting go, of releasing, of walking away from going into the cave, kind of being with ourselves. And then boom, the Hermit, like, it's time, it's gonna suck. Maybe for some people this is like time to let go of what's not working for us, what's controlling our lives, what's holding us in this clenched up state, and sort of, releasing in. And then finally, this to me is just a card of straight control, like, like wanting to, look at how, like, terrifying their faces. It's like so overwhelmed and really kind of clinging. And on the bottom of the deck is the Magician. So we have agency in how we move through and work with this energy. We can transmute and transform our shadows down here in the cave. We can look at this sense of, why do I feel like I need to cling onto and control everything? Why am I so scared? Why am I so afraid? We can transform that energy. Magician's like my fave. This is powerful stuff right now. But I think if we can sit with the moon and just be with the unconditional love that is pouring out, we'll know where to go. We'll know what to do next. So that is one of the longer videos I've done. That was really, thank you for being with me. This awesome opportunity to get into it. I am sending so much love to all of you, all of your shadows, all the parts of you that you don't like, because it needs love to transform and evolve, and I'm here to love it. The universe loves you. You're here for a reason. Everything is okay. You're going to be okay. You are loved. Alright, take care, y'all.